Have you ever wondered if God is still leading you even when everything around you feels uncertain? What if the struggles, the changes, and even the uncomfortable moments are not signs that you are lost, but signs that God is working deeper than you can see? Sometimes the path God chooses for us does not look like success, comfort, or ease. Sometimes His direction appears through conviction, transformation, and challenges that shape who we are becoming. Stay until the end, because you may discover signs that reveal God is closer than you ever realized. Have you ever secretly wondered if you're truly walking with God, or if you're just pretending everything is okay spiritually? Because let's be honest, sometimes the journey with God becomes incredibly confusing. You pray, but you still feel wrapped in uncertainty. You try your absolute best to obey God, but life seems to get harder instead of easier. Even the people around you may not understand you anymore. On those heavy days, you might even find yourself looking up and questioning, God, am I really on the right path? But here's the truth you need to hold on to. God's path rarely looks the way the world expects. In fact, many of the signs that you are truly walking with Him don't actually feel comfortable at first. In today's video, we're going to uncover 6 powerful signs that reveal God is actively leading you, even in the seasons where you feel completely lost. Sign number 1, you feel convicted, not comfortable. The first major shift happens deep within your soul. When you are truly walking with God, sin becomes incredibly harder to enjoy. A lot of people think that drawing closer to God means your life suddenly becomes smooth and effortless. But often, the very first thing you experience is a profound sense of discomfort. You start feeling uneasy, doing things that once felt entirely normal to you. Jesus told us in John 16:13 that the Spirit of truth would come to guide us into all truth. The Lord disciplines the one He loves. That discipline doesn't feel good, but it is actually divine confirmation. Conviction is the ultimate proof of your spiritual sensitivity. It means your spiritual ears are open and your heart hasn't become calloused. When the Holy Spirit lives inside you, He begins to reshape your desire, which works an internal battle between your old nature and your... Sign number 2, you're losing interest in certain things. This leads us directly into the second sign. God is changing your appetite. Have you ever looked at your life recently and realized that the things that once entertained you now just feel completely empty? Maybe it's the music you used to listen to, the shows you used to binge watch, or the lifestyle you used to chase. It's not necessarily that someone is standing over you telling you don't do that. It's just that internally the taste has changed. The excitement is gone. This happens because spiritual growth radically alters your desires. In Romans 12:2, we are commanded, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." When God begins to renew your mind, He naturally starts separating you from the distractions that are keeping you from Him. It creates an internal friction. As Galatians 5:17 explains, the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in constant conflict. When you truly begin walking with God, your old habits start losing their power over you. You find yourself losing all excitement for toxic conversations or drama that you used to eagerly participate in. You notice a shift where you suddenly want peace far more than you wanted attention or validation from others. You start preferring quiet solitude with God over the loud, chaotic environments you used to run to just to feel alive. It can feel incredibly lonely when this happens. You might look in the mirror and feel like a stranger to yourself. You might wonder why you don't fit in where you used to belong, but listen closely to this. Sometimes people think they're losing themselves when actually God is transforming them. He isn't stripping away your joy. He is clearing out the cheap substitutes so He can fill you with what truly satisfies. And honestly, as powerful as it is to watch your desires change, this next sign may be the hardest one of all to accept. Sign number 3. Some relationships begin changing for a moment. This next sign, it hurts. When you truly start walking with God, some of your closest relationships will begin to change. You see, we often pray for spiritual growth, but we don't realize that spiritual growth alters your spiritual frequency. And the hard truth is that not everyone can follow where God is leading you. This is where the journey can become deeply, profoundly lonely. You might notice that friends you used to talk to every single day suddenly become distant. You find yourself sitting in rooms with people you've known for years, but for some reason you feel completely misunderstood. It's like you're speaking a language they can no longer hear. The Bible speaks directly to this reality. In Amos 3:3, it asks a very simple but piercing question. Can two walk together except they be agreed? And 1 Corinthians 15:33 warns us, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. When God is preparing you for a new level, He will often begin to remove unhealthy connections or simply allow certain relationships to naturally fade. It's not always because those people are inherently bad or malicious. Sometimes it's just because they only fit your old season. They knew the old you, they were comfortable with the old you, and your growth is making them uncomfortable with themselves. It is incredibly painful to outgrow environments and people you love. It's wondering if you did something wrong, but in those quiet, heavy moments, I want you to remember this. Sometimes the pain of losing people is actually proof that God is protecting your future. He is not punishing you by clearing your circle. He is protecting the assignment He has on your life, making room for the right people who will pour into your spirit rather than drain it. Sign number 4, you start depending on God more than yourself. As those old comforts and connections begin to fade, something beautiful starts to happen. You stop trying to carry the weight of your world on your own shoulders, and you start depending on God more than yourself. For a long time, you might have been a fixer. You relied completely on your own intelligence, your own hustle, your own strength, and your own logic to get through life. But when you are truly on God's path, you realize your own strength simply isn't enough anymore. You hit a wall where human effort fails, and instead of panicking, you find yourself dropping to your knees. Suddenly, prayer stops being a last resort. It becomes as natural and necessary as breathing. Before you make a major career move, before you send that text message, before you make a financial decision, you find yourself pausing to seek God first. You become deeply, profoundly, spiritually aware of His presence and your need for it. You begin to live out the truth of Proverbs 3:5-6, and you finally understand what Jesus meant in John 15:5 when He said, I am the vine, you were the branches. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Admitting that you can do nothing without Him isn't weakness. It is the ultimate spiritual superpower. It means you have stopped trying to play God in your own life. People on God's path stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, God, what are you saying? But here's where the journey becomes truly transformative, because once you learn to depend on Him, God will begin to test that dependence in a way you might not expect. Sign number 5, you're being tested spiritually. Once you surrender your will and start depending entirely on Him, you need to prepare yourself for the next reality. You are going to be tested spiritually. Have you felt completely exhausted lately, stretched to your absolute limit, like you're facing unexpected battles, sudden delays, and a cloud of mental confusion that seems to come out of nowhere? When this happens, the first thing the enemy whispers in your ear is, see, you must have missed God. If you were on the right path, things wouldn't be this hard. But you need to understand something vital. Challenges do not mean God has left you. In fact, it's often the exact opposite. Spiritual warfare and intense testing almost always increase right when you are growing the most. The enemy doesn't waste his arrows on people who are walking in the wrong direction. He attacks your purpose. He attacks your potential. The Apostle Peter warned us about this in 1 Peter 1:7, explaining that these trials come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold which perishes, even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. And James 1:2-4 tells us to consider it pure joy when we face trials, because the testing of our faith produces endurance, making us mature and complete. Think about how this looks in the messy reality of your daily life. The exact week you decide to commit to financial stewardship, an unexpected bill hits your mailbox. The moment you pray for peace and emotional healing, old wounds and toxic memories suddenly resurface, causing deep mental exhaustion. You feel a clear calling to step into something new, but suddenly you are hit with a wave of delays and roadblocks that tempt you to just throw your hands up and quit. If you are in the thick of the fire right now, do not believe the lie that you are failing. The fire isn't there to consume you, it's there to refine you. Sometimes the reason the battle became harder is because your spiritual direction became clearer. You are being strengthened for what's ahead. And that brings us to the final sign, which may be the most powerful and beautiful of them all. Sign number 6, you're becoming more like Christ. This brings us to the final sign, the ultimate climax of the entire journey. You are becoming more like Jesus Christ. True transformation is rarely loud or explosive. It doesn't usually happen overnight. In fact, you may not even notice it immediately in your day-to-day life because God works so deeply and so slowly. But if you stop, step back and really look at your heart, you will see the evidence. You'll notice a quiet rise of patience where you used to snap. You'll feel a wave of humility where pride used to flare up. You'll find a steady anchor of self-control, a deeper compassion for hurting people, and a supernatural peace that doesn't make sense to the world around you. The Bible promises this beautiful process in 2 Corinthians 3:18. And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit. This is the fruit of the Spirit spoken of in Galatians 5:22-23. Love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Think about who you used to be. Years ago, the very things you are facing right now would have completely destroyed you emotionally. Certain temptations that you now walk away from would have controlled and mastered you completely, leaving you bitter and broken. But look at you now. Even though you are still imperfect, even though you still make mistakes, you are growing. You are fighting differently than you used to. You are praying differently than you used to. You're thinking so much differently than you used to. And maybe, just maybe, that is the clearest, most beautiful sign of all. You haven't been abandoned. You haven't lost your way. The very fact that you are wrestling, the very fact that you care, is the ultimate proof that God is still working on you. He who began a good work in you is faithful to complete it. You are on the right path. Keep walking. The final conclusion. Being on God's path doesn't mean your life suddenly becomes perfect overnight. It doesn't mean the doubts will never knock on your door, or that the road will always be smooth. What it does mean is that God is transforming you step by step, piece by piece. Some days on this journey are going to feel incredibly peaceful. Other days are going to feel heavy and confusing. But if God is convicting you, if he is changing your desires, if he is drawing you closer and teaching you to depend on him more than yourself, then please hear me today. You are not abandoned. You are being led. So maybe today, instead of looking at your struggles and asking yourself, am I failing spiritually? Maybe it's time to change the question. What if God is already working in me so much more than I realize? If this video has a place in your heart, share it and subscribe to Bible Resolved. I'll see you in the next one.